Welcome back, adventurers, once again to Let's Play ChäoS Child. And in the last episode, instead of being burned alive by the late Rico Haida, Takuru was suddenly and unceremoniously thrown down the stairs of Cafe LAX, where he landed on his neck and pretty much died almost instantaneously, never even knowing the identity of whoever it was that supposedly did that to him. But this time, we're going to think positive and act positive. Maybe whoever is coming through the entrance of Cafe LAX is somebody who is, on our side. Maybe. Possibly. Or not. Hello, Serica.
おのえ、お前なんでここに?
Yeah, what are you doing here? That is my question.
もしかしてつけてきたのか?
I think she has.
つけてきたんじゃないもん。ついてきたんだもん。
Somehow I
ど
doubt
っちだ
that.
って同じだろ。なんでそんなことするんだよ。
だってになるんだもん。
は？聞こえないよ。はっきり言えって。
だから気になるんだもん。
What happened? Serica stuck her lips out into a pout and sulked.
気になるってどうせ面白半分だろ。さすがにそういうのはどうかと。
違うもん。そうじゃないもん。
And explain, Serica.
だったらどういうことだよ。
トクはさ。
Serica never held back about saying what she was thinking, but now she looked really hesitant. It felt weird seeing her act this way. Oh, you have no idea.
トクはゆめちゃんになんて返事をするの？オッケーって言ってそのままラブラブになっちゃうの
？And if they do.
ラブラブって。
オッケーするんでしょ？しちゃうんだよね。
And yet you're not happy about that. And knowing what I do about you, it's not simple jealousy.
それは。
やっぱりそうなんだ。オッケーしちゃうんだ。それで人前で堂々とイチャイチャしたり、放課後の学校でチューしちゃったりするんだ。
お前何言ってんだ。
そりゃ相手は学園一の美少女だし、断る理由なんてないよね。
Funny you should say that, given the fact that nobody in the second or first year classes even knew who she was.
あのな、別に僕がどう返事しようが、お前には関係ないだろ。
It felt like she was throwing a tantrum, and I reacted coldly. Normally, she just complained more, but today something was different about her, Serica.
大野へ
関係なくないもん。
You know, knowing what I do, Serica isn't wrong. The lighting of the cafe reflected off of her wet eyes.
大野へ
I had no idea. I had no idea that Serica could look so sad.
関係なくなんかないもん。
おい
私だって本当はずっとタクのこと見てたのに、タクの一番そばにいたのに、本当はずっとタクのこと。タクのこと一番好きだったのに。それなのに、こんなのいきなり出てきた女の子に取られちゃうなんて、そんなの。そんなのやだよ。
All I could do was stand there like an idiot as she sobbed. Serica was in love with me? Love is a stretch, given the complicated truth behind her real nature. And yet it is as she says. Basically, yeah. As she has told us in the past, Takuru Miyashiro was everything to Serica Onoe. Quite literally. But not simply in the... well, not really in the romantic sense, I should say. She always had been. No, but she'd never shown any sign of that. I had no idea what to do. At no time in my short life had I ever dealt with anything like this.
とにかくちょっと落ち着こう
That was all I could say. I'd always thought of Serica as a friend, as someone I could always count on regardless of her sex. I'd never really seen her as a girl. I thought we could always be friends like that. But...
もういいよ、タクのバカ。
now Serica, being the tsundere.
あ
She turned away and ran down the stairs, the tears reflecting in the light as they streamed down her face.
待てってちゃんと話を
And like that she is gone. I tried to follow after her when... What? Was that a delusion? Indeed it was. Then where was Serica?
Huh?
すみません。
The footsteps coming up the stairs were Serika. They belonged to a man I'd never seen before. Serika in love with me? What was I thinking? That was impossible.
あれ
I suddenly gasped in surprise. Ayuzaki had been right in that chair a moment ago, but now she'd vanished. Almost as if she was never there to begin with, Takuru. I looked all around the room, but she was nowhere to be seen. Had she gotten annoyed watching me just stand there and gone home? No, that was impossible. There was only one entrance to the cafe. It was impossible for her to leave without me seeing it. I went to where she'd been sitting and took a closer look. But there was nothing on the table. There was no sign that anyone had even put a water glass on the table, and the chair was pushed in. There was nothing to hint that anyone had been sitting there at all.
なんだよこれ。一体どうなってるんだ。
It's all a lie, Takuru. I'd seen a girl sitting here. I'd heard her voice. Was that all a hallucination? Another product of my delusions? Yes and no.
Huh?
I suddenly felt someone looking at me. I looked around the cafe but didn't see anyone. I looked outside the window on the other side of the street where the sun was setting. I saw a tiny silhouette looking up at me. Because why wouldn't she be there?
ウキ。
There was no doubt about it. There she is. And as she looked at me with silent, calm eyes, there was an elegant and razor-sharp blade in her hand. I ran out of the store. This time I was sure of it. Uki was watching me, deliberately. Trying to make sure that we stay within this so-called reality. What had Uki been doing there? If I could find out, I might be able to figure out what was going on. That certainly spurred me to action. I ran as fast as I could after her as she fled. She was just a little kid, but you'd be surprised at how easily she can get away when she wants to. At this distance, I'd be able to catch up to her. Or so I thought. Aha. Yeah, not so easy, unfortunately. But no matter how fast I ran, I didn't seem to get any closer. What was this weird sensation? The fact that the reality that you were experiencing isn't reality? It wasn't that my sense of distance was screwed up. It was like I was chasing after something that wasn't there. I was moving my legs as fast as I could, but it was like in a nightmare, where you're running from someone who's chasing you, and you don't seem to be moving at all. This time, my desperation pushed me beyond my limits. My lungs felt like they were on fire. My sides stung from lack of exercise. My legs were screaming that they were about to give up, but I forced myself to keep going. Yeah, we need to deal with this once and for all, Uki Yamazoe. Uki turned around and saw me, then slipped through the turnstile to escape. I followed her through.
あれ
I'd been in such a hurry that I hadn't put my card up to the machine. But it had let me through anyway. Yeah, that's surprising. It had done the same thing for Uki too. She hadn't gotten out her card either.
いや、今そんなことより。
Oh, there's plenty of time for that. I ran up the stairs to the platforms, and I was just in time to see a train slide in to the Harajuku platform and watch Uki get on.
待て、ウキ！待って！
She's running away.
Huh?
It disappeared. Uki had just gotten on a green car from the Yamanote line and it was gone. It hadn't left the station. I would have at least been able to see it then. The whole platform was quiet, as if the train had never existed in the first place. Now it should be finally dawning on you, Takuru Miyashiro, just what you are tragically in. Yeah. No, not only that. The whole station was strangely dark. I couldn't see a single person. A cold chill ran up my back. What was going on? I looked around again and again, but the place was as quiet as the surface of the moon. Complete silence. Complete emptiness. There were no customers, no employees either. The information boards were all black and showed nothing at all.
Huh?
Yeah, this is a fake reality. That was impossible. Shibuya was supposed to be the 5th busiest station in Japan.
そうだ。ウキは？
She is gone. I forced my tired legs to move and looked around for Uki. But the only sound on the platform was my footsteps, and there was no sign of Uki or anyone else. I think she managed to escape our grasp.
くそ、一体何なんだよ。何がどうなってんだよ。
It felt like someone had torn open my skull and started fiddling with my hippocampus, which, to be fair, is a pretty apt observation. I went down the platform and through the turnstile and everything was back to normal. Except none of this is normal. What was going on? And then I heard the sound of the train coming in above me as if it were mocking me. I ran back up the stairs, feeling the people around me stare in bewilderment. When we go back inside, nothing. When I got up there, the platform was as empty as before. I had no idea what was going on anymore. The more I thought about it, the more confused I got. I staggered down the stairs, feeling defeated. I think we're trapped. Once I got back down, the world was normal again. Insofar as normal is. I didn't feel surprised anymore. I just felt empty. I put my back to the wall and let myself slide to the ground. Maybe I had gone crazy. I looked up and saw a commercial for music artists playing on big TV above Scramble Crossing. Been a long time since we saw your face, Fez. It was playing a song by Phantasm that just got released a few days ago. Suddenly there was static on the screen. Now we know who was trying to break through to Takuru. It's Serika, trying to break Uki's grip on him. That voice. Wait, Kurisu? Sarako and Kurisu too? Why was I hearing their voices from the TV?
気をつけて。あなたは今、妄想の渋谷にとらわれているの。
妄想の渋谷？
そこから脱出するには。
After what? I heard a noise and their voices vanished, only to be replaced by the Phantasm music video once more. Was that a hallucination? No, it was reality trying to break into a hallucination. It was another message like the ones I'd heard before.
妄想の渋谷？
A delusion crafted by Uki Yamazoe. The lights on the intersection changed and the people started to move. Beyond them, standing in a gap between the crowds, I saw a girl. It was Uki Yamazoe holding her D-sword. Suddenly it felt like a dam bursting in my mind. Gigalomaniacs. Uki Yamazoe's power is a gigalomaniac.
他人の思考や願望をリアルブートする能力。
Yeah. It was definitely far too good to be true. That's right. This whole thing started when I'd had that nightmare about being stabbed by Uki's D-sword. Then this must be... I started to move. The light was about to turn red, but I ran across the intersection anyway. I forced my way to the other side of the street as the car horns blared at me.
やっと捕まえた。
When I grabbed her by her tiny little shoulders, Uki jerked and looked up at me in shock.
タクルさん。
The D-sword she'd been holding vanished. But that didn't matter anymore.
悪いが、もうこれ以上はごまかされないぞ。いい加減本当のことを話してもらおうか。
Pretending to be scared wasn't going to work either.
ウキ、お前さっきディソードを持ってたよな。最近僕の周りで起こっているおかしな出来事。あれはお前のせいなのか？
Uki shook her head frantically to the left and right as if she were trying to wriggle out of my grasp.
ダメだ。本当のことを話すまでは逃がさないからな。
Yeah, we need to know. She looked around for help. I realized the people around me were staring at me suspiciously. Stares, stares, stares. They formed a circle, looking at me with cold and considerate eyes.
おいそこ!
Two black shadows forced their way through the crowd.
あんただあんた。そこで何をしているんだ?
いや。
This was bad.
どうした？何かやましいことでもあるのか？
違います。彼女は知り合いで。
犯罪を犯す奴は大体そう言うんだ。
犯罪？違う、僕は。
話は署で聞かせてもらおう。さあ、こっちへ来なさい。
Well, this is bad. Strong arms grabbed me and held me tight. Uki slipped out of my grasp. She She slid through the crowd and disappeared from my sight. And like that, she's gone. If I got arrested here, not only would my life be over, but I might lose a critical clue.
あんた学生か？
これ壁標の制服ですね。
Indeed it is.
ああ、なるほど。道理で。あ、おい！
I forced my way free and ran into the crowd. I need to find her. Does anyone ever actually stop when they hear that? If I was going to stop, I wouldn't have run in the first place. I practically body slammed my way through the crowd, running as fast as I could while the people round cursed at me. We have no time for that. How much time had I spent running today? It felt like I've been chasing a phantom of Uki forever. We might still be chasing phantoms. At some point my legs started to move on their own. I couldn't see the police anymore, but I was still terrified they might appear at any second. The only place I could go to was Aoba Dawn. In retrospect, we probably should have come here sooner. Kusu's eyes went wide as she saw me run in, out of breath. Except we know, this isn't the real Nono Kurusu. My lungs were begging me for oxygen. My heart was about to burn out, like an engine low on gas.
どうしたの？そんなに慌てて何かあったの？
なのか。
I thought I'd be able to speak, but my throat had dried up too much for me to get the words out.
とにかく水でも飲んで落ち着きなさい。
Usually I'd ask for a mountain view instead, but now wasn't the time. I took a gulp of water from the glass Kusu brought me, and finally calmed down.
それで何があったの？
あれは本当なのか。
落ち着いて話しなさい。それじゃあ一体何のことを言ってるのかわからないわ。
だから最近何度も僕にメッセージを送ってきてるだろ。あれは本当なのか。
This isn't the real Kurusu, Takuru.
メッセージ？
そうだよ。ここは渋谷じゃないって何度も。
I swallowed the rest of my sentence when I saw the look on her face. She was blinking at me in confusion with her head tilted to one side. It was clear she had no idea what I was talking about.
タクル？
やっぱり。
え？
Let's say just hypothetically that this wasn't the real Shibuya. Following on from that, if that were the case, then that meant the girl in front of me wasn't the real Kurusu. This meant I was probably wasting my time asking her anything. There was no point.
ウキは
I decided to do something else.
ウキちゃんがどうかしたの？
ウキは部屋にいるのか。
いえ、まだ帰ってないけど。でもそうね。もう少ししたら戻るんじゃないかしら。
If only things were that convenient. Uki wouldn't know that I was here. And there was no other place for her to go as far as I knew. So all I had to do was wait.
ねえ、どうしたのタクル？何があったの？
いや、別に。
別にって とてもそんな風には思えないわ。ウキちゃんと何かあったの？
There's not much we can say. Kurusu was acting like she was really worried.
大丈夫だって。クルスが心配するようなことは何もない。ただちょっと聞きたいことがあっただけだよ。
本当にそれだけ？
本当だって。だからここで待たせてもらっていいか？
変なことじゃないわよね。ウキちゃんに聞きたいことって、あの子もいろいろ苦労してるんだから優しくしてあげなきゃダメよ。
分かってるって。
だったらいいけど。
I think there's a warning of a very different stripe. We can't press Uki too far. It seems. Kurusu headed for the kitchen. She still looked worried. She was probably getting ready for dinner. For my part, I decided to just sit there and wait like I said I would. Come to think of it. Yumi Aozaki. What had happened to her? I thought I saw her at Cafe LAX, but then she quickly disappeared. Nothing more than a delusion projected by Uki Yamazoe. Maybe she'd been another hallucination. I took out my phone and looked at the call history. I tapped the screen to call her number. If she answered, there was a lot I wanted to ask her. If she didn't... As I listened to the phone ring, a strange sort of urgency started to well up within me. But it only goes to prove what we already know. There was no sign of her picking up. It rang 20 or 30 times without even going to an answering machine. Because there is no such connection. I was getting nowhere, so I decided to end the call and try again. I didn't know what her plan was, but I would make this a battle of wills. I'd keep calling again and again until she picked up. I call again and again and again. How many times had I called her? It was more times than I could count on both hands. I knew that much, but not once had she answered the phone. Maybe the monotonous sound of the ringing was getting to me because I was starting to get sleepy. It had been a stressful day, both physically and mentally. My mind, body, and spirit were all worn out, and the exhaustion was building up. My eyelids started to feel heavy. It became harder and harder to stay awake. No. Don't fall asleep.
Takuru?
Kurusu had come back from the kitchen at some point and was standing next to me.
クルス。
もうダメよ。そんなところで寝ちゃ風邪ひいちゃうじゃない。
違う。僕は。
はいはい。わかったからこっちにいらっしゃい。お布団敷いてあげるから。
No.
ここで寝ちゃうより少しの時間でもちゃんと布団で寝た方が疲れも取れるからね。
I think our plan backfired. Instead of pushing Uki Yamazoe, we've pushed ourselves to the brink instead. Kurusu grabbed me by the hand and stood me up.
もうしょうがないんだから。
Ain't that the truth? I didn't get the sense from Kurusu's voice that she was giving me an order. Her voice was filled with kindness and compassion. I was too tired and her voice was too soft for me to resist. I let her take me where she wanted me to go. I was so sleepy I wasn't even sure what I was feeling.
はい、こっちよ。
ああ。
Kurusu brought me into what looked like a girl's room. Everything was colored pink and made for the tastes of a little girl. This was... Oh, that's right, this was Uki's room. The chef-fleur was on the side shelf in its little pot. This was definitely Uki's room. But why here?
お布団、今朝干したばかりだから、ふかふかなはずよ。
But still, it wasn't right to sleep in a girl's room when she wasn't there. Wait, that wasn't the real question. Then what was the real question? I didn't know. I didn't have the mental capacity left to think about it. Or perhaps it was Hypnos, the god of sleep, tempting me. The god in Greek mythology called Hypnos, said to rule over sleep, the younger brother of Thanatos, the god of death. Well, it didn't matter, even though it should. It matters very much. I just wanted to sleep, but if we do, will we be able to wake up from this reality ever again? The desire to sleep was controlling my body and mind. In short, we played right into Uki's hands, methinks. As I fell into Uki's bed, I was surrounded by the gentle, mild scent of a young girl. It was a clean, sweet scent, like freshly washed sheets. The scent made me even more tired, and my eyelids slowly began to... Oh no. A phone ringing. My phone was making a noise in my pocket. Who could be calling at this hour? I'm sleepy. Call me some other time. I think it's urgent. Unfortunately, Takuru is just too tired. But the phone didn't stop ringing no matter how long I waited.
しつこいな。人がせっかく寝ようとしてるっていうのに。誰だよ、一体。
I think it's Sarika and Kurusu trying to get to him again. They just wouldn't stop, and even though my mind was still hazy, it felt like I had no choice but to pick up the phone. The name on the display was...
青崎夢。
Why now? Why that name now? That's right. So she'd seen my call and finally decided to call back. That's right, I had to find out who she is.
電話出なき。
I tried to move my fingers to tap the call icon, but my body felt far heavier than it should. I just needed to move my finger a little, but it was like my body belonged to someone else.
早く出なきゃ。
or she might just hang up. But it was like my body was paralyzed and it wouldn't move. It was like I was in a dream. A dream. But then who was dreaming? No, that didn't matter. I needed to pick up the phone. If I didn't hurry, she'd hang up. Hurry, hurry. I put all my strength into my fingertip and was finally able to answer the call.
もしもし
My voice was so exhausted that it was hard to believe those were my own words. Even as I talked, it felt like I was going to be dragged into the forest of sleep.
もしもし
I was too out of it to even tell whose voice it was on the phone.
聞こえてるタク
I think I know who that is. That isn't Yumi Ozaki. It's Sarako
僕を
Noe.
呼ぶのは誰だ
Not that Takuru is in any state to discern who is who anymore.
聞いてタクルこのままだとあなたはずっと眠ったままになってしまうわそうなる前に早く
クルス
お願いだから目を覚ましてよタク
I think it's too little too late for that.
こいつらが電話は青崎夢からじゃなかったっけ
ダメだ意識レベルがどんどん下がっているこのままだと宮代は死ぬぞ
It's Mio.
そんな
もっと呼びかけ続けろもっとだ今以上に
And who is that? Is that Shinjo? I couldn't even tell who was saying what anymore. I was falling into the abyss of sleep.
聞きなさいタクルあなたがいるのは現実じゃないの現実のあなたはね大怪我をして病院のベッドの上にいるのよお願いだよタク思い出してこのままだと戻ってこれなくなっちゃうよタクル
Now I understand. Uki Yamazoe tried to keep Takuru comfortable in his final moments. Yeah.
お願いだから戻ってきて
I could hear desperate cries from very close and very far away. But it was amazing how little it seemed to matter. A gentle light enveloped me, and I fell asleep. Where am I? Huh? I was supposed to be in Uki's room. Was this real? Or a dream? A dream? Whose dream? Mine? I screamed as something suddenly came into view. Tiny little boxes in the shape of a person. Dark red liquid flowing out of them. An overwhelming metallic stench. Inside the boxes was...
ああどうだ自分の大切なものを失う気分は自分の無力さを思い知りながら 後悔に苛まれる気分は。
We're back here again. That's right. I'd.
彼女は俺にとってかけがえのない存在だった。それをお前は見殺しにしたんだ。でもこれでようやく復讐も終わる。伊藤、お前。次は宮代の番だ。よく切れるメスと麻酔薬は持ってきたか。
Whether or not this is a memory or reality, I've been so angry about Yui's death.
それがなきゃひどく痛くて苦しむぞ。ゆいちゃんみたいにな。伊藤、なんだ、泣いて命乞いでもするか。助けてくださいって土下座するか。お前本当に。
タクルさん、
I gasped when I heard the voice behind me.
よかった、見つかった。ゆいちゃんは。
This is playing out slightly differently than it was before. Or maybe not. And then Uki saw the boxes near my feet and froze. Shocked, she looked at them, and then at me, as if she were trying to say something. And then she saw Itou.
ゆいちゃんは。
邪魔するな。今いいところなんだよ。可愛い妹の死で絶望の淵にいる宮代は絶望のままあの世へ送ってやるところなんだ。外野は黙って見てろ。
Itou turned toward me. Uki looked at the boxes again, and then she finally seemed to understand the meaning of Itou's words. And then... So it wasn't just Takuru whom Uki tried to shield from the harshness of reality, but it was herself as well. And as I said before, her intentions were kind and honorable, but it was never going to work, Uki. She took a half step back. And screamed. Indeed. Yui is dead, and she is not coming back. Uki glared at Itou in fury.
なんだよ。
D sword appeared in her little hand. It's playing out exactly as it had in reality.
なんだ。なんだよ、こいつ。
Uki staggered forward, flailing the sword wildly. Itou had no idea how to handle this sudden attacker.
待て、ウキ、伊藤にはまだ。
I got between them, and then... For the second time. An impact. Pain. Heat. That's right. She'd stabbed me with her D-sword. It wasn't your fault. I remembered. That was what happened.
あれが現実。それじゃ今僕がいるここは僕の妄想の中。
Indeed you were. I could hear voices of Seruko and Kurisu as they were trying to save him. From the brink of death. Unfortunately, we are still trapped within the dream. I could hear Seruko and Kurisu on the phone. They're trying to bring us consciousness back to the real world. Huh? What's going on? Was that a dream? Was I... Oh, that's right. This was Uki's room. I fell asleep in Uki's room. I was on the phone. I called Yumi Aozaki, person that never existed, and they called me. We can hear you. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about it. That's right. Serika's voice was calling me. Unfortunately, a certain somebody is going to put a stop to that, it seems. Suddenly something flew by me and knocked the phone out of my hands. It fell on the floor, its body split open by something sharp. My mind was still hazy as I forced myself to look up at the person holding the shining blade above me. Standing next to the bed, her face filled with desperation, was her. Uki Yamazori.
ウッキー。
ダメです。それ以上は気づいちゃいけないです。この世界こそがあなたのタクルさんの現実なんです。
Unfortunately, Takuru doesn't have that long to live. Her voice was as sad and desperate as the expression on her face.
どういうことだ。
Uki closed her eyes just for a moment.
優しい家族、温かい友達。楽しいこと、嬉しいこと、幸せなことだけがずっと繰り返しどこまでも続いている。
Forever, you say. Unfortunately, Takuru is on the verge of death, and he won't be able to enjoy those things ever again.
これが現実の渋谷。これがタクルさんにとっての現実。それでいいじゃないですか。
The fact that Takuru's life is literally bleeding out.
違う。
I struggled to get up. My body wouldn't move.
何が違うんですか。
The fact that he won't have much longer to enjoy it is a
それ
start. What was wrong with it? If the dream I'd had was right, I wouldn't like what was waiting for me when I woke up. Compared to that, this was paradise. Just like Uki said, there'd be nothing but fun things, pleasant things, and happy things in my life. Which is, again, fading fast. But would that really mean I was alive?
やっぱり
I finally managed to get the strength of my arms and stomach to sit up.
やっぱりここ現実なんかじゃない
Indeed it isn't. I was trying to tell myself that. No matter how much I didn't want to admit it. No matter how much I didn't want to accept it. No matter how much I wanted to ignore it. If that was the truth, even if I'd almost died after being stabbed by Uki's D-sword, as long as I was alive,
やめて、お願いですからやめてください。もうそれ以上辛い思いを味わわなくてもいいじゃないですか。
ウキ
it's out of your hands, Uki.
どうしてなんですか。あなたさえ望めば、ここはどんな幸せな世界にもなるんです。
Except it isn't.
それなのに、どうしてそんな風にせっかくの幸せを壊そうとするんですか。
It's not us that is trying to destroy such happiness. It was never us.
そんなこと言ったって
But we can't stay
夢
here.
は夢でしかないいずれは覚めなきゃいけない
覚めない方がいい夢だってあります。
Uki looked like she was about to cry.
私はあなたに命に関わるような大きな怪我を負わせてしまいました。もしかしたら二度と今までのような生活はできないかもしれない。
Well, that would pretty much signify that we're dead.
たとえ今現実に戻ったとしても、その先あなたを待っているのは辛くて苦しくて嫌なことだらけの人生ですよ。
Things that could easily happen in this dream reality as much as the real reality.
そんなの生きてるって言えるんですか。生きてる意味があるんですか。
The words she said grew in mass and density, creating ripples in my heart. They weighed down heavily upon me, and my mind creaked under the strain. At the same time, the heat and pain from when Uki stabbed me came rushing back. The feeling of coughing up blood, the feeling of my life flowing out of me, despair shrouding my heart. It's all coming back.
そんなの無理ですよ。私には耐えられないです。だから。
And again, she uses her powers.
だから私はこうして新しい世界を作ったんです。タクルさんの望む幸せな世界を作ったんです。このままこの世界にいた方がタクルさんは絶対に幸せでいられるんです。
And yet this world isn't truly perfect.
私だってその方が。
Indeed. Or so you thought. Slowly, like a slow-acting poison, all my negative emotions came welling forth to hold me back. It was fine to put on a brave face and say that I had to wake up from my dream. But Ibuki was right. Even if I did go back to the old world, my body would be half dead already. And Yui, my little sister. She had been killed by the man I thought was my best friend, and now she was gone. Was there anything left for me in the real world? It was nothing but cruelty and coldness, which is not true in its entirety, at least. But in this world, I wasn't hurt at all. Yui was here too. There was even a girl who loved me. Was there really any reason I had to go back?
せいです。
There is. Uki's voice was shaking. Tears were running down her pale white cheeks.
私のせいなんです。何もかも私のせい。
No, Uki, it wasn't.
ウキ
It isn't.
私は
Uki started to speak, her head downcast. She told me about herself.
私はまだ小さかった頃、お父さんやお母さんに連れられて不思議な場所に通っていました。
Yeah, Uki's own parents were a part of the Committee of 300.
そこではたくさんの人たちがお祈りをしたり瞑想をしたりしていました。
I imagined it was some kind of religious facility. Evidently her church had been involved in some kind of cult. The Church of Divine Light. Bastards.
お父さんとお母さんはとても厳しい人で、私がどうしてそこに行かなければいけないのか教えてはくれませんでしたし、私もそれをおかしなことだって思ったりはしませんでした。 ある日、私はあの地下へと連れて行かれました。そしてその後すぐに大きな地震があって、お父さんとお母さんは死んだって言われました。 両親の他には親戚は誰もいなくて、行くところのなくなってしまった私はあの地下の部屋で皆さんの面倒を見るようになりました。
So that's how it was. Her own parents perished in the earthquake.
それも私にとっては当然の成り行きで、どうしてこんなことをしなければいけないのかなんて疑問に思うことはありませんでした。
I remembered when I took her out of that basement. She'd been there since she was very little, and it had been everything she had. Thus she had no real reason to question it, since it became her reality.
いろいろとお世話をしていると、皆さんはありがとうって言ってくれました。
Yeah, unfortunately, Uki was the only one who actually helped those people. But the people responsible for keeping there clearly had other designs.
その言葉を聞くととても嬉しくて、すごく優しい気持ちになれました。 はあ、この人たちは私を必要と思ってくれてるんだ。私のことを頼ってくれてるんだ。そう思うととても温かい気持ちになれました。
And thus Uki clung to that happiness. For young Uki, being needed was the only way she felt she had any value in the world. I could see that from how hard she worked at her boudoir. That desire to be needed was the only thing that kept her going.
私は私の周りにいる人が幸せになってくれることが嬉しいんです。私が幸せになることよりも誰かが幸せになる、その方が私にとってはとても嬉しいことなんです。
So she chose to neglect her own happiness for the sake of making everyone else happy.
誰かに幸せになってほしい、誰かを幸せにしたい、ありがとうって笑ってもらいたい。私はきっとそのために生まれたんです。それなのに。
Yeah, reality is just too cruel. Her round eyes filled with tears again.
なのに私はタクルさんにあんなことを。私のせいでタクルさんは
Now he understands.
私はタクルさんを不幸にしてしまったんです。私にはもう現実の世界でタクルさんを幸せにすることはできません。でもこの世界なら私はタクルさんのことを幸せにすることができます。タクルさんに笑ってもらったり、ありがとうって言ってもらえることができるんです。
Yeah, you can make us do all those things. Against our will. And that, unfortunately, is the underlying point. Those choices are not our own.
だからお願いします。どうかこの世界でタクルさんが幸せになるお手伝いをさせてください。
Unfortunately, Yuki, such happiness does not last forever. It
僕を
can't.
幸せにウキが。
Why, I wonder. The meaning of Uki's words slowly sank in. Here I could be happy. Here I could smile.
タクルさん。
So maybe it would be okay to stay here. As soon as I started to think so, I began to feel incredibly tired again. Everything started to get hazy. I'm sure this is for the best. Nobody wants to suffer. And there's no difference between reality and delusion anyway. It's all just what your brain is showing you. So it's better to be happy.
タクルさん。
I just let myself sleep.
私が守りますから。あなたの幸せをずっと守っていきますから。
When I wake up, I'll be happy. Everything started to fade away. A tiny hand rubbed my back. It was Uki's hand, gentle and warm. It would keep me safe. So that's that.
そうだな。
That's right. If Uki would make me happy, that was fine with me.
よかったです。
A sweet, gentle darkness slowly enveloped me. If something bad happened, I could just look away. I could hide myself in my own little world and not look at it. Trying to deal with things would only make me miserable. What was wrong with that? It was nothing my life worth going through all that for. I could just let things pass me by. If I could have fun and be happy, what could be better? Everything would be fine. I could live here. Uki was saying she would do everything she could for me. I couldn't turn down her kindness. This was fine. Everything was fine. It was just fine.
そう、それでいいんです。
Everything's fine. In the end, the world was mine anyway. It was only what I saw, what I felt, what I knew. So I could just do what I wanted. It wasn't bothering anybody. I could just forget everything. And let Uki take care of it all. And then I fell. I fell toward an infinite abyss. Toward a happy world that only belonged to me. Forever and ever.
おやすみなさい、タクルさん。素敵な夢を。
Uki Yamazoi, Bad End 4. Is that really for the best? The answer to that question, dear adventurers, is no. Because we cannot afford to avert our eyes from the truth of reality, even if it hurts. That is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Child. And when we return, we shall finally, hopefully find a way out of this labyrinth that Uki Yamazoi has set up for us. Once and for all. As always, until next we meet.